Today's videos is gonna be all about the Honkai Star Rail Fate collab. Yes, that collab. The one that we waited for over a year. It finally dropped, and it's kind of safe to say that the reactions have been, let's call it, a little bit polarizing. I want to take a little bit of a deep dive into this entire thing, like what worked, what didn't work, what the community is saying, and what I feel about it. So I guess let's start with the context. We knew about this collaboration for like an entire year. Like that's a long time to build hype, and I'm sure a lot of people are hyped for that. Fate as a franchise is pretty huge, with like a lot of passionate and loyal fans, as seen by the FGO players. Honkai Star Rail is also one of Hoyo's biggest games right now. So on paper, this collab should have been like an absolute slam dunk, like a crossover with two massive IPs with tons of potential. When people heard the Holy Grail War in HSR, they imagined like a epic battle royale style event with new cutscenes and like dramatic stakes and even like some emotional deaths. But a perfect chance for like to blend like the best parts of both franchises into like a fantastic event. And for Hoyo themselves, it wasn't like a one-off promotion, right? Like this is an opportunity for them to like bring in more fans, more Fate fans into the HSR universe. It's like it would have been like a good marketing synergy, but I guess what did we get in the end? A pretty mid story with barely any cutscenes. And before I get too harsh, I want to be a little bit fair. Like there were a lot of positive things as well that came out of this event. Like first and foremost, the units themselves, Archer and Saber were the biggest selling points for me at least. Uh, Honestly, they're quite strong, and they're also pretty fun to use. And they also synergize well with older units, so which gives me more like options for my teams. I guess from like a pure gacha collection standpoint, it's a win. Another plus is also the banner duration. Hoyo actually gave us like extended time for for pulling for these collab characters, which is pretty helpful for F2P players like me or people who even plan their pulls. And in regard to the story, to be completely fair, there were a lot of like good, like decent story moments that I thought were good. Uh, and Archer and Saber also had some nice scenes together when they were fighting, which showed off a bit of their characters and even a little bit of jokes from the Fate community. So if you're the kind of player who just mainly wanted like to grab these new units and use them in combat, or even just like look at some of the references from the Fate, then I guess this collab at least delivered on that front. But that's pretty much where my compliments kind of end. Um, so before we dive into why the story didn't work, let me quickly explain what it actually was for anyone who hasn't played it yet. So the Fate collab event takes place in Penacony, and the entire thing is framed as a dream. So the Holy Grail War here isn't real. It's a simulated scenario happening in people's minds. At the start, you're thrown into a flashback and told outright that no one can actually die or be hurt because it's all within a dream world. The premise is that this Holy Grail War is supposed to be like this big tournament like event with masters and servants fighting for the Grail. But instead of an actual battle royale, it turns into this like kind of talk heavy mystery where you like follow the characters trying to unravel this weird dream logic and personal traumas. The main focus isn't really Archer or Saber. It ends up being centered around this HSR NPC called Scott, who has his own like psychological like baggage in this dream. So, and players move through this like reused Penacony stage, like this map, while engaging in like very long dialogue scenes and a horror-inspired silent movie section, and so a minimal combat as well. So there's no real sense of danger or consequence. It's just like a sport kind of. So overall, it's a Holy Grail war in name only. The story is more of a meandering dream exploration with lots of talking, very little action, and no real stakes, in my opinion. All right, I guess let's go a little bit deeper into the story, I guess. I feel like where this collab completely lost the plot was literally in the story, literally and figuratively. Like the first problem for me that I kind of emphasized before was the stakes. The entire event was like framed as a dream sequence in Pentacony. From the very beginning, they tell you like no one can actually die, no one can get hurt, and it's all happening in this dream logic. They call it a holy grail war, but there's no war, there's no danger, like there's no sense of urgency, like no sense of high stakes at all. It's like a friendly sports competition, and I think honestly, it can be called the Honkai Carnival Phantasm because that probably would have been a more honest title. And I feel like more when most people think of the Fate series, they expect like cutthroat battles and emotional sacrifices and even like maybe tragic deaths. Like the entire tone was just gone. It just felt like fan service for like Fate fans to me. And also the pacing of the story, if I had to sum it up in one word, it was pretty painful. So much of the story was just endless dialogue, walls and walls of text with barely any action to break it up. Just like your typical Honkai Star Rail fashion, I guess. It actually got so dull that when I was playing it, I literally felt myself falling asleep. This was supposed to be like some epic crossover with some awesome story and exciting moments, but it to me just felt like listening to NPC monologues for hours and on end. Like it just felt like I was playing a visual novel instead of an actual turn-based game. Oh yeah, speaking of the NPCs, let's also talk about Scott. So if you're an HSR player, you know Scott as one of like Pentagony's NPCs. In this collab, he somehow became like a main like character in the story. Like I'm not even kidding. The story spends a huge chunk of time on Scott's backstory, Scott's motivations, Scott's personal demons. Like meanwhile, like Archer and Saber, the reason why everybody play this collab gets shoved into this like supporting role. It felt like Hoyo had like a perfect chance to introduce Fate fans to like the cool cast of HSR by like showcasing the big name characters, but instead we just got Scott and just a lot of Scott. It was just a big missed opportunity to cross promote both franchises. But let's get to the action as well, or rather the total lack of it. There were practically no cutscenes. The few that we got were pretty good, but they were very rare and felt like an afterthought to me. The combat sequences were minimal and uninspired. Like instead of feeling like a battle royale for the Holy Grail, it was more like we walk to the next area, talk more, fight maybe like a recycled enemy that already we fought before, and more talking. Like it felt so passive to me. And speaking of passive, the big problem that I felt was the asset reuse. Like I get gacha games reuse like a lot of assets, like it's normal. It saves money and dev time. But there's a difference between smart asset reuse and just being lazy. Like this event was absolutely blatant about it. The entire collab map, just the existing Pentacony assets with a couple of small tweaks. Like Saber's dream sequence, almost a one-to-one copy of an old map. Enemies, mostly recycled mobs. Even the final boss, just a reused enemy reskin. Like they call it an event, but it was honestly just 8 short runs of glorified simulated universe. Like no real tournament vibe, no big duels with other masters, no integration with the story. They could have used it to simulate the Holy Grail War format with the bracket style matches or even AI opponents representing like the masters and servants. Instead, it was like over before we even started getting invested. Like they had a whole year to prepare for this event, and they couldn't even make a cup like a unique boss for it. Like other gacha games managed to deliver event exclusive bosses and even custom stages in way less time. And this isn't just some small indie like game company. This is Hoyoverse, like $1 billion giant. It honestly feels like a bit of a insult as a player. I guess before I get sidetracked, let me talk about the part in the story about the infamous silent horror section. They hyped it up as this like creepy atmospheric change of pace, but it was such a weird fit. There was absolutely no voice acting at all, no real horror visuals because it's a PG-12 or PG-16 game where they can't really show anything too scary, and there's literally no sense of danger because no one can die. It also felt like wandering around like a bargain dollar store haunted house where they couldn't afford to show any blood or gore. It was also painfully drawn out, whole scenes of pure silence, with characters pantomiming instead of talking. It honestly had me cringing a little bit. Some people think they cut out the voice acting just to save on money on the VAs, and honestly, it wouldn't even surprise me in the slightest. And speaking of the voice acting, let's also talk about that for a little bit. Archer and Saber, the headliners of this entire event, didn't even have English voices at launch. Uh, Hoyo promised players that you could use the Japanese voices. And so if you wanted to play in English but still hear Archer and Saber voiced, you probably have to wait for a bit. It was such a baffling and amateur move from a company with like their amount of resources, which kind of had me disappointed to say the least. And I guess let's get to what the community thought about this, which is not that good. I know a lot of players felt down, especially Fate fans. Most of the common complaints were the story was incredibly weak, with a lot of recycled maps and assets. The pacing was painfully slow with too much unvoiced text. The silent horror section felt out of place and pointless. And there were a lot of there were some missing English voices for the Collab characters. And the reused bosses with no new models or mechanics. Some people did defend it slightly, saying the units themselves were solid and there were a few good moments, which I agree with, but the product was nowhere near the hype that we got for an entire year. And I'm pretty sure the community also had a similar sentiment that this was a huge waste of opportunity. Fate fans didn't get the epic crossover with badass fights they wanted, and HSR fans didn't get anything new or exciting to pull them deeper into the game, right? It didn't really do justice to either IPs. And honestly, this isn't even about this one collab. A lot of players felt like Hoyo's like overall quality is declining. Like people point to the previous collabs in other Hoyo games that actually worked, like Honkai Impact Third's Evangelion event, and even Genshin Impact with his like other like brand collabs, and like all these events like felt like a premium, right? Like new bosses, new animations, maybe even new custom maps or new skins, something like that. Like this Fate collab for HSR, it kind of just felt like it was thrown together at the last minute, despite a year of like development time. And it's left a lot of players questioning where the money from all those gacha sales is even going. And it's definitely probably another yacht for a beloved Dawei. So yeah, that was sort of my like little breakdown of the Fate collab in Honkai Star Rail. We got a couple of good units, a few decent scenes, but overall it felt a little bit disappointing. But hey, that's just my take, and I would love to know what you guys thought. Did you play the event? Did you like it? Did you hate it? Was it worse than you expected or even better? Drop a comment down below. I'm interested in knowing. And if you enjoyed this video, please consider leaving a like and subscribe. I'll be making more like little big breakdowns, reviews, and reactions on gacha games and animes and even just games in general. So thanks for watching. See you in the next video.